Hello everybody and welcome to the third episode of our series Features Showcase. In each episode, as you know, we discuss one of the newest features of DaDaBIK, the ones introduced in DaDaBIK 10 and DaDaBIK 11. Today I'm going to talk about HTTP API. The DaDaBIK HTTP API feature has been introduced with DaDaBIK 10 Manarola. So, first of all, what is an API? API stands for Application Programming Interface, as you might know. Basically, it's an interface that allows other applications, other softwares to talk, to connect with DaDaBIK, to use some of the DaDaBIK features. So DaDaBIK offers a user interface that is, the one you are seeing here, the one that allows you to use DaDaBIK, composed by, here we have data grids, we have forms, we have charts, we have PDF documents we can produce, but we don't have just a user interface. We also have an application programming interface that is used by other softwares. In particular, that's an HTTP API, which means that other applications can connect, with DaDaBIK, can use some of the DaDaBIK features using the HTTP protocol as, let's say, communication channel. Okay, the HTTP protocol is the same our browsers use when you open a web page, right? Okay, so I will start showing you this example application. It's a classic sales management application. Here we have data about our customers, name, email, country, city, notes, and some other information. So this is a classic DaDaBIK application. What you can do right now using the HTTP API. So right now you can basically do two different things. You can authenticate into a DaDaBIK application from other applications, and you can select, read, retrieve data. For example, I can ask this DaDaBIK application from another application, even built with a completely different technology. I can ask this DaDaBIK application to give me the data about some customers, for example, all the customers who live in Canada. Okay? So, what kind of applications you can build? Applications that can use the HTTP API to consume DaDaBIK data. Well, there are almost no limits, and as I said, it doesn't need, the applications don't need to use the same technology that DaDaBIK uses. For example, you can have, for example, an iOS or Android app showing your available products. We have a products table here with all our products. Maybe we have a field saying that the product is available or not. The mobile app, this mobile app can consume this data, retrieve this data, and show the available products in the app itself. I don't know, let's say that we have also here the information of our physical shops. okay, with the city, address, and something like that. We can have a website using a Google Map that read through the HTTP API this data and show the shops in a map. We can have other internal apps that consume data you manage with DaDaBIK. You can do what what we nowadays we call headless CMS. What is an headless CMS? It's a content management system, CMS, focused on the back end. So you manage again your information through the application you build with DaDaBIK, but you don't use this application as a front end for your information. Other applications, websites, mobile apps, actually consume this data and show the data in the proper ways to the final users. So again, there are no limits. You can really do many things. So what I'm doing here as an example, as you can see here, the DaDaBIK application I have here is hosted on DaDaBIK.com, as you can see from the URL. DaDaBIK.com, that's a temporary application I've built just for this demo. Dada API example. Okay, so on the laptop I'm using to register this episode, instead I will write a Python script, so different technology respect to the one DaDaBIK uses, that connects to my DaDaBIK app using the DaDaBIK API. Get some data and do some data analysis. Okay, well, I could use, I could export the data in CSV, import the data in Python, and do my data analysis that way. But I will use the APIs because, well, I can show you how they work. And also, when I launch the script, my data is always the most recent. I don't need to export again the CSV from my DaDaBIK app. Like every time I run my Python script, the data will be refreshed, will be retrieved from my DaDaBIK app. My Python script will elaborate the data and show the result. Okay, there is no real reason why I'm using Python, the Python programming language, to show you this feature, because again, any technology that can make an API call is fine. PHP and Python are, however, the programming languages I use the most. PHP and JavaScript for web development, Python for the more academic part of my job, and for everything that has to do with data science, in particular machine learning and these kind of things. Okay, so first thing, we have to check the configuration parameters related to API. Okay, these are the 4 parameters related to API. You can find, you can set in your config custom file. First of all, you have to enable the HTTP API. By default, this parameter is 0, so you have to set to 1. Then you can limit the access, and this is what I've done here, through the HTTP API to some users. So maybe for security reasons, you want just some of your users to be able to use the HTTP API, because when you connect, we will see that in a moment. When you authenticate through the HTTP API, you will use the username and password that you can also use for the standard DaDaBIK application. So here, for example, I'm saying I've added just one user to this array, one with value 1, so one user with value 1, which means that only the user having ID 1, that in our case is the root user, can access through the HTTP API. Okay, so well, probably the user you want to use is not the root user. This is just an example for this test. Is more a user having limited permissions. Okay, you need to add other users. You can do something like that. So in this case, users having ID 1 and 4 can access the application through the HTTP API. How can you see the ID of a user? In your DaDaBIK users table, there is an ID user field, and that's where you should look. All right. The third parameter, seconds token expiration, we will see in a moment what is a token. Probably you already know that. This is the number of seconds after which the token expires. Finally, you can also set when you call an API method, then the API produces a response in JSON. Maybe for some particularly intense request, you need more time. Here you can set the maximum number of seconds that the API can take to produce the result. All right, so let's go back to our application, and let me introduce the other application that, as you can see, is on my laptop. This is a Jupyter notebook where I wrote some Python code that will access this DaDaBIK application that instead is again on the DaDaBIK.com server. So they are in two different, they are hosted on two different computers, and we'll do some let's say exploratory data analysis. So I won't go into the little details of the code. I just want to show you the most important things. So here I'm importing some libraries that I require for my data analysis script, and here I will show you the first of the two methods we will use, the getToken method. The getToken method allows to get a token, of course, by passing to the method username and password. Okay, so you send the username and password, the method getToken validates your username and password, and if they are fine, the method gives you back a token. A token is something that you can use. It's an alphanumeric string that you can use for the following request to authenticate again against the API. Okay, so you get the token once, and then for an amount of time that you can set in your config custom parameter, you are allowed to use that token to make other requests to the API. So here I set in this variable the base URL of my DaDaBIK app, that is the one we have seen before. Then this is the URL of the getToken method, login.php !, function equal to getToken. This is something you can find in DaDaBIK documentation, of course. And I have to send some data. So the payload I am sending to this method is composed by username, root, and password. That is the password I'm using for this test application. Here I'm doing the actual request to this URL, base URL plus URL, sending this payload, data equal payload. Okay? And then I'm storing the JSON reply into this variable. Maybe we can do something like this. So I show you, I print out what I'm actually getting. Status OK, result done, token value, and this is the value of my token. Okay, I'll rerun again this script, but this time I won't print anything. I just want to store the token value in the token in this token variable. Okay. All right. So here now I have my token stored in the token variable. Let's go to the second part of the script. In this second part, I will use another API method, the search method. The search method allows me to search records from a table according to some filters, sorting data in some way, specifying some other parameters that I will tell you in a moment. So, well, we still have the base URL stored in this variable, so we don't need to reset it. This is the URL. Again, you can see it in the documentation of the search method. We have to specify the table name. The table name is customers, and what we want to select the set of customers having for the field purchase customer a value greater than 10,000. Let's go back for a minute to the customers table. We have a few fields, and the fields we are going to use are age category. So basically we have classified the customers in 3 categories: under 30, under 50, and 50 and above. And we also have a purchase customer field where we store, let's say, the amount of money the customer spent in our shops, let's say. And let's say, to simplify, that this value is expressed in euros cents or dollar cents. Okay, let's go back here. So this is the URL of the search method. As I said, you can check the exact URL in the documentation. One thing I want to highlight is the fact that I set records per page to 1000 because you know, when you use a standard DaDaBIK application, you can see a number of records and then you can go through you know, one page and the second one and the third one and so on and so forth. Well, and you can also choose the number of items, number of records per page. You can do the same here. Basically, you can specify the page and the number of records per page. To be sure to have just one page, so, you know, to make things a little bit easier, I used a very, you know, high number, 1000. Well, it's very high for this specific use case because I knew that the customers are 297. But this, of course, might be not true for other use cases. There are other optional settings you can use here. For example, order. So if you want to sort the results in some way, well, you can check the documentation about that. Here, instead, I'm sending some data related to the query I'm doing. So I will comment all the parameters, but for the moment, let me focus on these two. Purchase customer 10,000, as we said before, and purchase customer select type greater than. So basically, as you can see, again, all the details in the documentation, but here I have the name of the field. This is exactly the name of the field as it is in your database. And for each field, I have to specify, again, another parameter with exactly the same name, plus this part, and this parameter tells me which kind of search operator I want to use, and I'm referring to the fact that I can use you know, less than, greater than, different than, equal to, and so on and so forth. All the parameters that you can also use in DaDaBIK for the, you know, the standard application. Again, all the details in the documentation. So these are the main two parameters. I can add other fields, search fields, if I want. I mean, the search is not exactly as when you search from here. You can specify several search parameters, and here you can specify if all the conditions need to be true, or if it is okay even if just one of the condition is true. So basically, you are saying to DaDaBIK, use the AND Boolean operator to connect my search parameters, or use the OR Boolean operator to do that, and that's exactly the same here. So operator AND. This, in our case, doesn't have any impact because we only have one search parameter, this one. But in case you want to specify more search parameters, then the operator AND or of course has an impact. Then you have to specify your username and your token, the one we got before. This is something that probably at some point will change, because the token should be able to authenticate you in the DaDaBIK application without sending the username as well, because it's already produced according to a username and password pair combination, but at the moment you have to specify it. And then there is this parameter that you always have to specify. All right, here again we basically make the call with the base URL and plus the URL and our payload. Well, one thing I want to point out, I'm trying to keep the code simple. So if you are a Python developer, and if you see that I'm over simplifying things, or on the other hand, I'm doing in multiple steps something that I could do in a more synthetic way, well, that's because I want to be clear about how the API works. Okay, so of course this is not a Python class. I'm using Python to show you the DaDaBIK API. Okay. All right. So here again, as I did before, I'm storing the JSON reply into this variable, and then my final output will be what I want to do is I want to create a bar graph where I can show for the different countries how many customers I have, but not considering all the customers, but only the customers we selected before, the one that again have a purchase customer field having a value greater than 10,000. Okay, so let me uncomment some code here. Okay, what I'm doing here, just to give you some hints of what is going on here, I'm using pandas. Pandas is a well-known library for Python. I'm creating what is called a pandas data frame. Okay, starting from the results I got from DaDaBIK, from DaDaBIK HTTP API, I'm storing this data frame here in df. Okay, you can think about a data frame as I'm simplifying a little bit, but as a table. Okay, a table where in addition pandas add to each element an index. Okay, to identify each row. But I don't want to go into these details because they are not very important for the purpose of this video. Here, well, this is just something I added to make the bar chart, I'm drawing a little bit better. So I select the font size, the size of the chart, and something else, the DPI of the figure. But the important part is this one. So I'm getting a column of my data frame, only ID country, okay, only ID country, that contains the country the customer is from. I make a value counts, so I count how many customers I have for each unique country I have in my column, and I plot my bar chart, kind equals bar. And here I'm just showing my bar chart. Let's execute the code. Here we go. Okay, as you can see, we have various countries and the number of customers we have. Okay, and of course we are getting the data from our application. This is something, of course, that I can do from DaDaBIK as well. So let me go back here. Generate chart, aggregate data by country, show count. I get more or less the same chart, okay? Well, it's not sorted like here, but I mean, I can make it bigger. Okay, so it's more or less the same chart, but of course, what I wanted to show you is that I'm doing that from a completely different application that is hosted on another server. And again, I'm getting data exactly when I run the script. So, for example, if right now someone adds a new customer from Italy, then I will see, if I run again the script, I will see a higher bar here. Okay, let's do something more advanced then. I want to do a pivot table, and the idea is to cluster my customers based on age and country. Okay, so I will group by my customer by age category and country, and for each cluster I want to compute the average amount of money they spent. Okay, and this is the code. Again, we are using again the same data frame, the one we got from the previous request. So we are still using those customers, having a purchase customer value greater than 10,000, and with that data frame we are creating a pivot table having index, so on the rows the country, on the columns the various age category, and as the value of the cells we will see in a second, we compute the mean of the purchase customer field. Okay. One thing I have to do here is let's say that I have to cast this value to integer. Why? Because it was a string, an alphanumeric string, and for computing the mean here I need numbers, and integer is fine because as we said, let's say they are cents, so integer is totally fine. Okay, so let's see here the result. Here we go. Okay, so this is our pivot table. So for example, if we consider Germany under 30, this is the average amount of money the customers belonging to this cluster spent. Again, considering only some customers, the ones we selected before. All right. And finally, I will show you also a heat map. So basically, using the pivot table that now is stored in a result that I computed before, I will create a heat map that shows the same results, but with some colors that allow me to very easily see which are the clusters where the value, the average I computed is higher. But it's easier if I show you the map. Here we go. So, well, the data we have here is exactly the same, but as you can see, we have different colors, and here I can immediately see that since this cluster is darker, that means that this is one of the highest value, okay? Germany under 50. All right. And this was the heat map. So, well, yes, I just passed the result to this method, and yes, we have other parameters. For example, these ones are related to the color scheme I want to adopt. So, for example, if I remove these parameters, I still get the heat map, but with a different color scheme. All right, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video that was a bit different respect to the classic tutorials or features showcase videos, and also a bit longer. If you have any question, or even if you have any idea about how the DaDaBIK HTTP API should improve in the future, you can write that in a comment. Okay? So see you next time for the episode 4. Ciao!